CryptoSI DAODAO. This was the first meeting, or the first call that we had in Discord. We may move them to Twitter Spaces in the future, but this was the first one that we had in Discord. The turnout was quite low, but I feel like we got through some really interesting stuff. We discussed the tokenomics, we discussed the DAO structure, we discussed what we're going to do next, we discussed risks and how we're going to mitigate those risks. And it was generally a very productive call. So stay tuned and check it out. Okay, here we go. We are in the CryptoSI DAODAO meeting. This is the first meeting of the CryptoSI DAODAO. We have unfortunately only one guest who is cause less harm. So it seems that there's not very much uptake for the DAO, but nevertheless we shall push on because the plan is if we build it, they shall come. So what I really want to get started with is discussing the agenda for today, getting through it. And obviously, if you wish to jump in and talk at any point, you are welcome to, as it is a group meeting, even though it's only me so far. CryptoSI DAODAO, the plan is that we're going to build a venture DAO. We're going to create apps or dApps, decentralized apps. Well, they're going to be dApps, definitely. Decentralized apps on the Juno blockchain and other blockchains also. And we're going to use the earnings from those dApps to fund the development of further dApps. That is the basic premise of the DAO. As the people join and we decide exactly how we're going to build things, this may change over time. I can't really see that happening. I hope it doesn't change, but obviously it's down to the members of the DAO. If at any point you've got any questions or anything like that, you can, I guess, type in the general chat area, as I'm monitoring in that, and we don't have a text area for this particular voice chat. Right, so that's the long-term vision of the project. The short-term vision is to get things up and running, and I guess we'll discuss that in a little while. I've given a brief overview. What we'll do is discuss the tokenomics as they are so far. I've got a brief tokenomics plan sketched out, but obviously wanted to run it by the members of the DAO. If that means I'm just running it by myself, then so be it. I want to discuss who's in charge, how to get involved. Should take about 5 minutes. The short-term roadmap, the long-term roadmap, what exactly we do after we finish this call, and then we'll have a short Q&A session. Hopefully have everything wrapped up within maybe about 30 minutes, I would say, considering the low turnout. Right, so we discussed the vision. Let's now discuss the governance mechanism, which will lead us nicely onto the tokenomics. So within DAODAO, we've got a choice of two types of governance. We can either have the NFT governance mechanisms, or we can have the... wait a minute, let me just make sure that you guys can hear me.
I can hear you fine, and I can jump in here. This is Cause Less Harm speaking.
Excellent.
So I contribute to DAODAO and have done for the last 8 months. So we've got 3 options for DAO configuration. We've got a membership DAO, which is basically a multi-sig. You've got your token-based DAO, which is, as it sounds, a token-based, or your NFT DAO. Carry on, you're doing great.
Excellent. Right, so the token-based...
I can also hear you, by the way.
Brilliant. Nice to have you here. Let me scroll it up so I can actually see your name. Peter Stephen Brown. Peter, how are you? Good to see you.
Well, thanks.
Good, good. Right, so yeah, those are the three options. The actual multi-sig version, I had already discounted as I didn't want the hassle of having the liability with the if you have well, I guess you could be pseudo anonymous, but I wanted it to be so that people could join and leave at any time. So I wanted that level of decentralization. So although yes, there are three options, I think for the sake of this DAO, the way I want it to run, we're going to only use the two. Now it's good that we've got you here actually, Cause Less Harm, because you can speak to these ideas that I've got behind governance. So the plan is to initially have a some form of token launch, and once the tokens have been distributed, then the governance will be a treasury which is controlled by the votes of the token holders. The alternative to that is to have NFTs be created and the governance is controlled by the people who have NFTs. The plan in the long term, I don't know if this is possible yet, but I'm quite sure it's feasible, is to start with the token method and then to move on once the NFTs have been created and distributed, which is another launch process in itself. Once those NFTs have been created and distributed, then we have a hybrid sort of a hybrid method of governance whereby people can put forward proposals. It will cost them a certain amount per proposal, and then people can vote on the proposal, and their voting weight will depend upon how many NFTs they have or how many tokens they have. And at the time of issuing the NFTs, I guess we get a chance to decide the weight that each NFT has. So one NFT could be worth 100 tokens or something or other. Cause Less Harm, is that feasible? Does that sound like that could be worked with the DAO as it currently stands?
Yeah, not as it currently stands. You probably need a bit of custom coding to do a hybrid version. So currently, as it stands, you could do one or the other. There's no reason why you couldn't merge from token to NFT, but doing them both at the same time would just, it's not like a big, a lot of coding, but you just need to work those contracts to work together. Possible, but not currently out of the box.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, well that's good. That's promising, because the worst thing to hear is that it's not possible or it's crazy. But right, so once we can do that, and that's good, because the plan is not to have that be something that is available at the start. So initially we'll just start with the tokens. In time we'll have the NFTs. The risks and challenges I wanted to discuss regarding the governance. I guess it's timely now. I don't know if you guys know about what's happened with Tornado Cash, but they had a situation whereby I guess I'll be moderately technical. They put forward there's a malicious actor who's taken over the Tornado Cash governance. He put forward a proposal, and then using some kind of code which they had used or they had kept in the code base to clean up past proposals, he then self-destructed the proposal. Sorry, put two identical proposals, self-destructed one, changed the other, or put in another one with the same title or something. Then managed by doing that to trick the actual smart contracts into passing the second proposal, which was the one that he didn't self-destruct. And by doing that, he then created a bunch of tokens, then siphoned off all of the tokens that were staked in the Tornado Cash smart contract. So that's a long way around going about saying that one of the risks I guess we would have would be the safety of the smart contracts that actually govern the treasury. Now, the only real way we can mitigate that, I guess, is to rely upon how whatever DAO are doing to keep those smart contracts safe. Also, it may be a good idea, if the treasury becomes exceedingly large, to have a portion of the treasury which is not held in the treasury, but is held in a multi-sig or something similar to Gnosis Safe, which I guess is just called Safe now, to make sure that we don't have all of our eggs within one basket. With regards to those other sorts of risks, I can't really foresee anything else that's immediately pertinent. So unless either of you guys have got any other ideas of any other risks that are particularly worrying, I haven't really spotted any on a technical level that I'm particularly worried about.
So I can speak to specifically that Tornado Cash attack. As I understand it, cannot be done on CosmWasm or DAODAO just because of the way that the contracts are loaded. You can't delete them or anything like that. So that's certainly good. And also DAODAO's code is all audited, which means there are very few security vulnerabilities. I guess one of the ones that you need to think about, depending on token distribution, whether it's going to be liquid or not, is a 51% attack, which happened to a DAO not too long ago, where their tokens were very cheap to acquire, and so someone just bought a whole bunch of them, staked them in the DAO, and then took over the DAO. So just something to keep in mind for the future.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. As we're speaking, I'm just taking notes on this because I want to probably deliver everything. This is going to be recorded, so I want to put this out as a video, but I also want to put it out as a blog, which and a video where I can actually break down these points for people who may not be as technically savvy. Okay, so that's good. So I guess I wouldn't call it a Sybil attack, but it's a Sybil style attack, or people can buy enough tokens to effectively give the entire treasury to themselves. That's something that we need to worry about, and that's, I guess, really a problem with distribution, and that will be a problem forever because a hostile takeover, I guess, is something that can always happen. Cause less harm. What are the ways that other DAOs are going about mitigating the chances of that 51% attack?
So the biggest thing is just to make sure that the majority of the members are staking. So as long as there's a massive amount of tokens or a larger amount of tokens staked, then is, I guess, cheaply available. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? I'm probably not explaining it very well, but like essentially this attack happened because the DAO had very few tokens staked, and thus it was very cheap to, I think it cost $400 or something like that for someone to go and buy enough to take 51% of the vote, and then they did a proposal to just drain the treasury, which was presumably more than $400. But it wasn't. It's like the whole point is, if as long as the DAO members are staking their tokens, then it shouldn't be possible, or that there aren't too many tokens available at a cheap price, I guess.
Yep. Do you know what the name of the DAO that got attacked in this way was?
Yeah, it was Aquadao.
Right. Okay.
AQUA.
Okay.
It was within the last 2 months or so. I'm sure there's a write-up for it somewhere.
Yeah.
In fact, I think DAO put out a statement about how to protect the DAO. I'll find that article for you.
Brilliant. Okay, excellent. I will use that. I'll look into that as well, because that'll be good for us to know how to mitigate that, because that's probably the biggest attack vector that we've got to worry about. Okay, right. Let's move on. I want to discuss community building and engagement. Now, this is clearly not my strong suit, marketing and whatnot. So really what we wanted to do is discuss what strategies I had, what ideas I had, and then I'll give you guys a chance to chip in with your own ideas also about growing the DAO community. Now, the DAO community within this particular DAO, I want to consist of people like developers, marketers, artists, people who are going to produce things that we can turn into products or decentralized applications that can obviously further the Juno DAO and further the whole crypto mission overall. One of the ideas I had for doing this, once we've got a decent sized treasury, obviously I've said before in things that I'm going to put in 10k US myself to get us started, and hopefully that will get us to a point where we can have a decent token sale or something similar where the treasury can grow. Once the treasury has grown, I want to go to places like hackathons before we're big enough to hold our own, but go to hackathons, find good projects at hackathons, especially obviously Cosmosm based hackathons or Cosmos based hackathons, where we can easily, I should say fork or easily convert the projects, and there's a stronger chance that the projects will be useful in the Juno ecosystem. Convert them, use our funding, and then use our other partnerships that we should be building to get those things built on Juno with the funding that we have. The reason why I think we will be in a good position to do this is because we'll have funding over time. We're going to, well, we've already got someone who's a contributor to DAODAO, which is extremely helpful. We should be able to get more people who are contributors. I want to get some validators involved as well. I want to see if we can get some partnerships with validators going as well, and just make it so that they know if they do come to us that we can help not only push their project but help them with integration, help them with mitigating their own worries, organizing or helping them to get code audits in time, helping them to get exchange listings, X, Y, and Z. But we want to have all of those factors as partnerships within our own DAO. That's effectively the community building that I wanted to do. I didn't really want to have too many moon boys and things like that. I would rather had maybe a few more than we've got, but I wouldn't want to have too many of those. I wanted to have the bulk of the community be people who are actively building or actively doing something and not waiting for, you know, the so-called core team, as there won't be one, to make the DAO go well. I wanted to do things such as have social media campaigns, have social media accounts specifically for the DAO, which not only would post out our own content but would also retweet the content of related projects and also comment and engage in the content of related projects. So if there are hackathons that we are there commenting, we are engaging with the projects that are being built there, not only pushing our own narrative but also getting involved directly in the narrative of others, and hosting events in the future at some point, co-hosting them or having events online or in real life. That's my plan for community building and engagement. Do you guys have anything you'd like to add on that topic?
I just think it's worth adding that we are in the depths of the bear, and don't read too much into engagement at the moment. It's not an easy place to be right now, and certainly the way that I look at these things is if you can build some stuff now, it will be in place for when the people come. So yeah, that's my point. It's like community building right now is a very, very difficult thing.
Yeah, yes, I would agree. This is my third, I think it's my third bear market now, and yeah, each time it gets seemingly gets worse than the last time. So yeah, it does feel like a ghost town, but you're absolutely right. If we build it, then when everybody does come back, we will have somewhere for them to immediately land. As far as community building and engagement, also I feel like we do need some strong documentation. about what the DAO does, what the DAO is, how people can get involved. So I'm probably going to work on creating those documents in the next week or so, as well as creating, I don't know, like tutorial style videos to go along with it. I'm hoping that allows the onboarding process to be a lot more simple and a lot more fluid for people, not just obviously crypto enthusiasts, but the new people that will be coming into the space when the bull market returns, which I guess will be.
Yeah, sorry, just to interject. It would be helpful if you could make sort of the literature and all that sort of stuff as what should I say, as idiot proof as possible. Obviously, someone like me, I'm not as tech savvy as you guys, but I still enjoy, learning about DAOs and all that sort of stuff. So if you could make it just as simple as possible, so that newbies sort of things can kind of understand it, that would be great.
Okay, yes.
Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah, that would be perfect. Right, so what I've got, make it more user-friendly and simple for beginners. So I'll try to not have as much jargon in it and, like the acronyms and things that really throw people who don't already know about crypto in depth.
Yeah, or I mean, if you do have the acronyms and all that sort of stuff in, like, just try and break that stuff down so that newbies and can understand it, because I think that's one of the main barriers to entry for people looking to really get into new and interesting projects. Sometimes they can be overwhelmed by the more technical aspects of these sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, right. Okay, so I'll take that under agreement, under instruction. Thanks for that, Peter. I'll take that under advisement.
I'd just like to echo that. I think that's a great call, and certainly with people, it turns people off, right? If they don't understand something, they're not going to search it out unless they're extraordinarily curious. We want to lower the barrier to entry as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. So I've got that. Next, let's discuss the tokenomics. Now, I've put together a tokenomics document which I'm going to pull up here. I wonder if I'll be able to share this in the Discord. Oh, okay. Well, I won't. Actually, let me see if I can. Bear with me, guys. I'm just going to see if I can share this document. If not, I'll just speak for it. No, do you know what? Let me just speak for it because it's going to take me too long. So the current idea, and obviously it is just a loose idea and it's not quite complete for the tokenomics, is as follows. We're going to have something like 100 billion CRDD tokens. The DAO at the moment is called CryptoSI DAODAO, but that's honestly in lieu of us finding a better name or having a rebrand or whatever once the DAO is up and running. I'm assuming we'll have a rebrand at some point. So we're going to have 100 billion of these tokens. The reason why I wanted to have so many of the tokens is purely because meme tokens are hot right now. As much as I dislike jumping on bandwagons, I at this point have to accept that people like to have loads of tokens for their money. So where you get 0.001 BTC for $500 or $200, whatever it is now, you would get 20,000 of the CRDD tokens for the same amount. And people, especially newcomers to the space, with what's happening in DeFi, etc., they really do like to have these high numbers. So that's why I've gone for a high number of tokens. It also allows people to have a vote even if they have a small amount. One of the one of my key criticisms of some of the other earlier DAOs is that you need to have a masternode, which means you have to have a significant chunk of the currency before you even get a vote. Now with this, having so many tokens means that you can get a vote even if you have an absolutely tiny amount, or almost dust-like amounts, you still get a vote. And that's quite important to me, that people have that freedom to do that. Once we've got the 100 million tokens, I believe with DAO that something like 10% will have to start in someone's hands so that they can put forward different proposals and have them passed. So they can't all start off in the treasury, but the plan is for the majority, like the vast majority of them, to start off in the treasury. The rest of them will start off either in a multi-sig if we can do that easily on Juno. Otherwise they'll have to start with one particular person, and at a given time he'll have to then either burn those tokens or send them back into the treasury. The given time will be obviously after any sort of token sale or token distribution happens. We have to also, when we're considering this token distribution, consider the attacks that cause less harm mentioned earlier on in the discussion a few moments ago. In the long term, I would like the DAO to have some form of burning mechanism, whereby if we have dApps that charge people in US dollars or stable coins, or in Juno or in Atom, for example, if we built a DeFi, DeFi dashboard, something that can do a similar job to Revert Finance, you guys may not be familiar with, but it basically, what it does is it allows users to easily control the liquidity that they're putting into Uniswap v3 clones. So in Uniswap v3, you can say that your liquidity, you don't want it to trade when the price goes above a certain level or below a certain level. If you've got this dashboard, it's easier for you to set that up. It's easier for you to monitor the price. It's easier for you to say, I want to switch this on, or I want to switch the range between here and there. It's easier for you to see how much you're making. It's easier to see, all those things become easier. Now, if we was to build something like that, or fork something like that for another chain in the ecosystem, and we were to charge users a standing fee of, I don't know, let's say 10 euros a month or something like that, then that income could go into the treasury, be converted by, well, either by the treasury, and cause this harm, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but converted either by the treasury or by some form of multi-sig into our own token. And then once we've got our own token, we can send our own token to the burn address. Now the plan behind having a burn address is that it puts an upwards price pressure on the underlying token itself, the CRDD token. It will put an upwards price pressure on that, and it obviously over time it will lower the supply and increase the demand. Now I'm just going to quickly say that on top of that, I was hoping that within, I don't know, in the next 6 to 12 months, if the DAO is still going strong, that we could introduce an inflationary style mechanic to the tokenomics. And this part is definitely where I'm going to need your input, cause less harm, because what I don't want is, I don't want us to have rug pull style smart contracts where, because we can change the tokenomics, we can then inflate it to heck. I would like it so that we could only inflate it by maybe 5%, but it's something that the community will have to decide. It shouldn't be something that one person can decide. And then once they do decide it, if they do decide it, then the newly minted tokens should go directly into the treasury to be used by whoever or whatever projects are putting forward proposals at that time. Cause less harm, does that sound like it's feasible, like it could work with the current DAO system?
Yeah, what's up, Lil D? Welcome. So inflation, the way that it works is you'd have your main DAO as the minting DAO, and then any of the members would have to vote on minting more tokens. So yeah, it'd all be controlled by the DAO membership.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so then what we could do, I guess, in one in one vote, we could mint the new tokens for a year's worth of inflation, possibly put them in a newly created smart contract and have that smart contract kind of drip feed the new tokens into the treasury for projects to vote on every month in a monthly basis.
Yeah, all very feasible. There's a vesting contract you could use that's already been written to do that. And actually, I just made a note about what you were saying earlier about the initial distribution. I don't want to get into the weeds too much here, but I'd suggest using sub DAOs, because you can have your main DAO be a token DAO and then a sub DAO be a multi-sig, which would control the tokens. And the whole idea of doing this is just you really want to avoid voting fatigue. So you don't necessarily want the whole membership to be voting on distributing tokens to a new member or something like that. Sorry, I don't want to go too far deep into that, but I've got some ideas around the structure or the architecture of the DAO that we can discuss later.
Okay, all right. So what we'll do, I'll add that to our notes. But what we'll probably do is we'll probably need to have another call or discussion via text format or whatever, where we can speak about the structure of the DAO. Because I guess it would be something like a holding company, wouldn't it? And then you'd have underneath it the sub DAOs would be the I guess managing companies. So yeah, we should discuss that further at a later date. Definitely, we should have a discussion purely on that. I'm going to put DAO structure and sub DAOs, because those sub DAOs can be run by a bunch of members, can't they? Which effectively would be like a council. So
that's right. And then they're ultimately beholden to the parent DAO. So the parent DAO, if the sub DAO is doing something that the main DAO doesn't want it to do, the main DAO can say and take over.
Yes, perfect. Yes, perfect. I guess that gives them veto rights, doesn't it? Okay, right. So main DAO would have veto rights, which is something that I really liked. I noticed that with DAODAO itself, it seemed like I think Juno have got veto rights over the core DAO. Is it called Core DAO 1 or something? But
Core 1 DAO is the core group of devs. I don't know how that works, if I'm perfectly honest. I guess Juno governance could vote in or vote out new members.
Yeah, I think I understood it as Juno, like the stakers, so the Juno main stakers, I think I understood it as they could say no to a vote or something that the Core 1 DAO had passed. I understood it as a veto, as opposed to they could say you must do X, Y, and Z. That's how I understood it. But either way, I guess we can look into that further when we really dig deep into the DAO structure and what we can do with sub DAOs, which I think is going to be very important. I'm cautious of time. We're about halfway. Well, we're at least halfway through if we go for an hour. I wanted to discuss what we do in the short term. So within the next 6 months, I'm classing as the short term. Now, there was a few things that I feel like we definitely need to do. The first one is we need to get the documentation sorted. So the things that we're discussing today, especially once we've decided on the structure, we need to get the documentation sorted. I think it's important now that we format the documentation in a way that newcomers are easily able to digest. So that's one of the main things that we want to aim to do. I want to have the documentation. I'm probably going to host it on GitHub, but we could get a Git book or something like that. Also wanted to have our own website built, maybe a microsite, not too tech heavy, just something that gives us the brief overview of what the DAO is planning on doing and why, how people can get involved, and obviously things like the tokenomics should be a part of that. So that's website documentation. Another thing within the next 6 months would be the main thing would be the token distribution. So I'm just writing these down as I'm reeling them off, because I also wanted to add DAO structure to it as well. So I want us to decide upon the DAO structure, do the documentation for it, build the documentation for it, build the website for it, and then once all that has happened, then we can really look at token sale or token distribution. I don't really like the idea of calling it a sale, because it assumes that people are customers as opposed to collaborators. So I would like if when we do put together the documentation and when we do go for the distribution, that it is put out as a token distribution as opposed to a sale. Those are the only things I've really got on the short-term roadmap for the next 6 months or so. Hopefully we'd have our first DApp at least passed within that 6 month time frame. So I'm hoping that we've had our first proposals and we've gotten those passed within the first 6 months time frame. Another thing I also wanted to get done was partnerships. I've got a decent amount of experience within DAOs, and one thing that I developed some years ago was I guess it's a social protocol for decentralized partnerships. And what it basically does is it outlines how you can have a partnership when people vote the partnership into place. So if it's a partnership between us and, let's say, some validators, I want to get somewhere between 6 to 10 Juno validators or Cosmos in general validators. They can put their names forward, say who they are, say how they can help the DAO to grow, and we will then class them as a partner. Then if there is a time when we have tokens that we're holding and we decide to stake, then we would stake them with our partners. That would be what they get out of it. What they give to us would be they would help us promote and help spread the word about the DAO. So I'd like to get the partnerships documentation done, and it has to be passed by the DAO. So the DAO has to accept that this is the way we're going to do our partnerships in the future. I don't want partnerships done whereby I decide, okay, we're going to be partnered with Binance because I said so, or we're going to be partnered with BMW because I said so. It needs to be a case of the DAO decides who the DAO is partnered with. So they have to put forward proposals as such, and the DAO has to then pass such proposals. I want to get that done. I want to get our first partnerships under our belt within 6 months as well. So that's website documentation, DAO structure sorted out, token distribution, partnerships, and first DApp all within the first 6 months. Any of you guys got any other ideas of things that we should be planning to accomplish within the first 6 months, or do you think I've covered everything?
I think that covers. I mean, I think things will come up as we keep talking.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So then we can.
Yeah, I think that covers it. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
But I do think the website should kind of maybe be a priority, because obviously that's the landing page. That's where people will go to get information about what it is we're actually trying to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that should kind of be quite we should try and get that up and running as soon as possible.
Okay, so
obviously with the tokenomics and all that quite prevalent on there.
If I go to give everything a hierarchy, let's say with a order of which ones we're going to start first, I would say we do the website first, the DAO structuring second, the documentation third, fourth we lay out the partnerships, fifth we do the token distribution, and once that is done, then we work on securing our first DApp. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For the website, what I'll do is I can produce the copy that we're going to use and share it with us guys in the DAODAO Discord. We can just use that for now. In time, I would like to say to the DAODAO team if we could get our own channel within the Discord, but I think that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. I think we have to probably have actually produced a little bit more before they give us our own channel.
Yeah, probably. I think for the most part, the DAODAO channels are just for DAODAO stuff. Probably need to start your own Discord.
Yeah,
that's just how it's been. It used to be that they'd give channels, but I don't think that. I think they moved away from that.
Okay, well that makes sense because they don't know what can happen with the DAO, so it doesn't make sense that they put the channels within their own Discord because it does give them some amount of liability, which it doesn't make sense that they take on. I've got my own Discord, so we could use that in the interim. And then obviously once the project is up and once the DAO is up and running and we have our own social channels, then it would only make sense that we then built our own Discord for the DAO. Someone would have to put in a proposal for it and they would then become custodians of it. And that's how our social media will more than likely work. So that's fine. We've got this voice channel, which we've used today, which I'm glad that we could use because I think this is a good place for people to start their DAOs within DAODAO, but I think once the DAO's actually started, they should move out. So all right, so we've got our short term things that we need to do, and we've got the priority in which we need to do them. So I'm going to move on to the longer term roadmap. Now this is going to be very loose because I think it's something that should be outlined as we go. So really, maybe on the short-term roadmap, one of the things I'm going to actually add would be to create a long-term roadmap. I think it's something that we have to create as a community with our new partners and with the new people who become token holders once we've done the distribution. Overall, though, what I would say is that I want the long-term roadmap to have the creation of more dApps. In the long term, we should be creating dApps on not just Juno but other Cosmos-based chains, and we should have things like a fund for public goods and those sorts of things. Increase our partnerships and things like that. So, long term, I don't think it's really something that we should be putting into stone now because it's too soon and we don't have enough of the members and I don't want to grandfather in any ideas. Are you guys okay with that, or do you think there's some things that definitely should be on the long-term roadmap even now?
No, I agree.
Excellent. Okay, good. It's lovely when a plan comes together. Okay, the same thing. I feel the same thing with legal and compliance. Obviously, I've been in crypto too long to be a fan of regulation and whatnot. So I feel like we should push on with what we are doing for now. Once we start to put our long-term roadmap into place, then we can start to consider what sorts of compliance we need to adhere to. If we are building dApps and they are operating in certain jurisdictions, possibly we may need to register some sort of custodians or officers for that particular dApp. We may be outsourcing that. That may be another project problem. But regarding legal and compliance, just so that we have considered it, I feel that it's something that that we can kick down the road. I feel like we probably don't have the resources right now to pay to set up legally somewhere, and I feel like what we're doing at the moment is still too small for us to worry about the legal side of it, but it should be something that we consider. Are there any I guess are there any legal considerations that DAODAO itself as a project puts in place for the DAOs that are created on DAODAO? Is there any documentation or anything like that that we could go and have a look at that could possibly guide us through the legal process right now?
No, and actively try to avoid giving any kind of legal advice through DAODAO. It's kind of it's open source. You can do whatever you want with it, but it's your own responsibility, kind of thing.
Perfect. That's what I love to hear. Okay, well, that could be something possibly that we look to do in the future. Either have partnerships with legal advisors or put together some sort of legal documentation for a public good. Again, if it comes from a DAO, then they can try and sue the DAO. Like, good luck to them. But it's just legal advice. It will just help people if they are feeling a little bit afraid, so they don't have to go and pay some lawyer to tell them, look, you can do this, that, and the other. Finally, I'm just going to go over what's going to happen after this particular call. So with what happens next, I feel that it's the best or the main thing that we should be doing now, which will probably be I'll be doing now, is to get through the items that we've identified on our short-term roadmap. So first things first, build the website. Then we have to have a real good discussion about the DAO structure and the sub-DAOs. That's something which literally has just come up now. I hadn't really considered the idea of having these sub-DAOs with percentages of the treasury and having members for those particular sub-DAOs. So that's something that we really should discuss in detail. Then we want to get the documentation all done. So I want to get the white paper amended to the things that we have discussed today. Obviously, I have to mention in there that having a hybrid governance model of token voting plus NFT voting is not yet available, but by the sounds of Cause Less Harm's description, it seems like it would be almost trivial to modify the smart contracts to add that. Whether or not we can do that on the fly, can we do that once the contracts have been deployed? What's the process of upgrading the contracts? Cause Less Harm.
I don't have a definitive answer to that, but as long as I understand you correctly, what we're saying is you'd want token holders to be able to vote on the same proposal as NFT holders and figure out some kind of weighting for the NFT versus tokens. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it's not. I'm not a developer, so I couldn't do it at the moment. But it's not a huge thing. It would just basically be a new smart contract. I can't remember which space, but yeah, not a massive thing at all. And could it be done? What was the question? Could it be done?
Well, the problem is, can we migrate? Like, how difficult will it be to migrate from one to another? Because once we've launched, I guess we've deployed a certain group of smart contracts. Now, when we decide we want to have a hybrid, which is another group of smart contracts, how do we migrate from V1 effectively to V2?
Yeah, so again, as I understand it, I've got a pretty good understanding of DAODAO, not that big of a deal, because we'd presumably start off with token-based, and then you'd want to add the NFT bit to it. I don't think it would be that big of a deal.
Perfect.
He says. Again, not a DAO. Let me make it clear. I couldn't do it, but I don't think it's that. For someone who knows what they're doing, I don't think it would be that difficult.
And then I guess on top of that, we've got the contingency, which would be we could still have NFT voting, but they would have to vote on their own sub-DAO. So we could have an NFT voting sub-DAO if we decided to have, I don't know, an animation division. I'm literally just thinking out loud,
Yeah.
but we could have, okay, we've sold 10,000 NFTs. These guys get to vote on whatever happens with the animations, and they are still beholden to the token holders, who are the
The
people.
main DAO, the
Yeah,
parent DAO. Absolutely. And in fact, you could weight that sub DAO with how much weight is applied to the parent DAO, like pretty easily. I could do that. I could set that up now. So yeah, no problem at all.
yeah, exactly, right. So we've got a contingency there in case we can't have a hybrid model. That would be the model that we would look at having. Okay, so we can finalize that DAO structure. We can really get that done. The next thing we want to look at is partnerships. Now, I've got already, like I said, we've got a social protocol for that, which it can easily fork. Then we just have to discuss with some of the what are they called, the validators, if they wanted to be partnerships. Those would be the people that I want to move to first. I'd like to go to the validators and possibly exchanges, but mainly validators. I know a few validators actually, even who validate on Juno, so I'll approach those guys first, get them involved, and then we move on with our distribution. So that's what we're going to be doing. Well, the distribution, I guess, won't happen before our next meeting. I want to have these meetings at least once every, 2 weeks or so. I'm hoping that we can get our DAO structure sorted, the website up, and the actual DAO launched before we have the next one of these meetings. Checking my diary now. The next meeting will be, I think it's going to be the 4th. Let me check. Hold on. So 26. Yeah, the next meeting will be the 4th of June at the same time. So I'm just writing that in now. DAO meeting number 2 will be the 4th of June at 9 p.m. Now, hopefully by that point, the website will be up, the documentation will be started and underway, the DAO structure will be confirmed, and the DAO would have been launched. I'm going to try, we'll try, once we've discussed the DAO structure, which we can do over the next few days, when Cause Less Harm has got time, whenever he's free. So, Cause Less Harm, would you prefer to discuss that in a voice chat, or would you prefer to do it over text?
I'm whichever. It doesn't, probably better as a voice chat. Just hash it out.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do then, I'll discuss with you once we've ended this call on a good time to have that voice chat. We'll promote it as well so that people can come and join and give their 2 pence as well. And during that discussion, we'll have an agenda like we've had today, and we will hash out a proper DAO structure. Do you think you'd have half an hour or an hour spare within the next week?
Yeah, no problem at all. You let me know what works for you, and I'm sure I can work around it. I've got a ton of kids, so evenings in the UK are not amazing for me, but later in the evenings are good, or during the day is fine.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah. We'll organise a time, because I've only got the one, so it's quite easy for me to work around him. And I think now we've discussed everything. Really, the only thing is a Q&A, but we've all been pretty active. So I wanted to thank you all for attending first and foremost. Thanks especially to you, Cause Less Harm, because it's great to have a contributor actually come and let me know which parts are feasible and which aren't. Thanks, Peter, for also turning up, and Lil D. Is there anything else that you feel we should discuss? I'll ask you first, Cause Low Harm. Is there anything else, Cause Less Harm? Is there anything else you feel that we should discuss, or anything else you wanted to know about the project before we took our next steps?
Sorry, I was muted. I think this is a good first step. things aren't crystal clear at the moment, but I think, just having conversations and putting out the documentation, having more chats things will become more clear for sure. So no, I'm good.
Excellent. And Peter, are there any questions from you?
No, I'm good. I second what Causeless Harms just said. The more discussions, the more meetings, the more we get out there, I think the better. So yeah, all good.
And Lil D, it seems like you're not. You've been muted the whole time. If you would like to speak, you're welcome to now. It's the time you can ask any questions or give any input that you wanted to give. If there's no pressure, of course. Oh, hold on 1 second. I think has he put a text message in? No. Or maybe he has, yes, I can see the chat. Right, okay, yeah, there you go. Right, right, so Lil D said, no questions, just see the above. CryptoSI.eth, Marshall Islands, DAO is what? Right, okay. So I'm going to see this out in case people have only got audio, but what Little D has shared is that NetaDAO is using Marshall Islands DAO. They help you to incorporate within the Marshall Islands. Marshall Islands, I believe they're well known for gaming and crypto, so I guess they've got some regulation or regulatory things there. Glad to see so much thought going into the DAO structure and operating policy. Oh, thank you, Lil D. Thank you very much, and thanks for this. What you've shared with mydao.org. So I'll check that out as well. It might be interesting when we discuss DAO structure, and definitely will be interesting when we look at legal advice in the future. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you all very much for attending. It's been really nice for me. It's really good. I feel like we're off to a pretty good start. We know pretty much what we need to do. I think there needs to be some more documentation to iron out things so that we know in a more clear way what we're going to be doing in the future. I'm going to upload this video, will probably go into YouTube in the upcoming days. And hopefully we should have the DAO launched within the next week or so. And then in 2 weeks' time, we'll have our next meeting, which will be welcome DeFi Cosmos. You've arrived just at the end, unfortunately. But like I said, I'll be uploading this onto YouTube. So anything that you have missed, you will be able to go back to and listen to. And the next meeting between us all will be on the 4th of June 2023. So that'll be meeting number 2, will be on the 4th of June 2023, and we should have some update on what's happened with the website, DAO structure, documentation, partnerships, and the distribution. We should have some form of plan regarding all of that. So thanks again, guys, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. Adios.